Really? All right. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I'll show you my jig rod setup. Uh, I'm fishing with a ducket, triad rod. This is, see, the length is 7 foot 4 inches, heavy power. If you wanted to purchase this rod, I guess the model number is DFTR74HC. I would turn the other way, but y'all can see that claws that you wanted to. Still fishing right now. Yeah, man, this is my jig rod. Oh, oh yeah, but I want to talk about welcome back to our channel, Fin Ventures Outdoor Recreation, and yeah, I want to talk about the basics of a good jig rod and reel setup, depending on how you like to fish. Yeah, so over the years, man, I've been fishing with jigs, and let me tell you, fishing with jigs like that took me to another level in terms of catching trophy fish or trophy bass in general, um, especially the swim jig. We're gonna get into that a little bit later, but fishing in general, man, with jigs. My home lake was a state lake that was not really a lake that was a high priority on the my state's fisheries department's priority chart. And so that being said, fisheries management was subpar on that lake, and the state also would take the brood bass from our lake to a hatchery and spawn the they would spawn or whatever the bass, because they were kind of a different strain than the northern and Florida strain. It's like a coastal strain, which is the thing. Most people probably haven't heard of that, but anyway, fishing on that lake was tough because there weren't a lot of big fish there. Once I started and switched over to fishing with jigs, it was like a whole new lake. I mean, it wasn't numbers, but I was going to a lake where, this lake, you don't see people catching 3-pound bass consistently. This is not a lake where people pull 5-pound bass out every weekend. And I mean, this is a lake where brim fishing is great. I mean, you want to catch some of the biggest brim in our area, that was the lake to go to. But the bass, just big bass, and like I said, the state was literally coming in and taking the bass for their spawning program, which I understand, but I don't think they ever brought them back. And it is what it is, bro. I don't care. But the point I'm making, I was on a lake that wasn't a big bass lake, but I wanted to catch big bass. Didn't really get many opportunities until I started jig fishing. But I had to learn very quickly the do's and don'ts of fishing with the jig. So first thing first, you have to have. Now I've listened to a lot of people or whatnot, and a lot of people, they tried their best. They gave me advice on jig fishing or whatnot, but their advice was, it is what it is. I mean, maybe it worked for them, but it didn't work for me as much. But I did learn. I gathered enough advice from different sources to know that to kind of learn the ins and outs and ins of jig fishing. So, I've been rambling a little bit, but your rod, you cannot jig fish and have success unless you have the right rod setup. You need, I mean, it's a few things, but more than anything, you need to have the right rod. Trust me, I've learned this the hard way. Back to that story of the lake I grew up fishing on. That lake, uh, once I started fishing with jigs, I started catching, well, getting bigger fish. The biggest fish in that lake, I started getting bites from. I didn't say landing. I wasn't catching them, but I was starting to get bites from some of the biggest fish in the lake. And, that definitely was a pro for me and a plus for me. But, yeah, man, got some older kayaks coming by. But, dog behind me. But anyway, fishing with jigs on that lake, I started getting bites, big bites, and I was setting the hook. I would set the hook, but no fish. I'm setting the hook left and right, but yet and still I'm not catching anything. The hook would not penetrate, or I would set the hook and it would still be in the fish's mouth a little bit, but just not, they still would spit the hook. So I was using swim jigs more than anything at that point in time, but people were telling me that you got to make sure your hooks are sharp. Some people say don't even set the hook, just reel down, almost like a circle hook. There were so many different philosophies, but what I realized more than anything, what they said didn't matter if I did not have the right rod setup. So you have to have bare minimum. You have to understand rod power and the dynamics of rods as it relates to bass fishing. But you need a heavy power. No. You need bare minimum, a medium heavy rod. Bare minimum. I was fishing with a medium, probably medium in general, just a medium powered rod. And I knew that I wasn't penetrating the roof of the mouth, the mandible, or whatever of the largemouth bass that were of a substantial size, and a couple ones that I was landing, 2 and 3 pound ones that I was landing, the hook was barely in their mouths and they could have easily spit it out. I saw them spit it out a bunch of times. And, I do remember a big bass. I don't know how big, but much bigger than 5 pounds on my home lake. I was fishing off of the pier and I got a bite, man. It was, that jig bite is kind of nice, and there's no question on if you have a bite or not with that good jig bite. And I set the hook with everything in my soul. I set the hook and pulled back so hard, the fish literally, and I'm not saying jumped out of the water, but it arose from the water like with the whiff, like I was pulling it, physically pulling that fish out of the water, and it was on top of the water, and just like that, it didn't even shake the hook. The hook came out. My rod was not strong enough to penetrate that fish's mouth. So rod power. Once I switched over to a medium heavy rod, I caught bigger fish. That first rod was a medium heavy. That first rod was a loose medium heavy combo, I think. And I did well. But over time, the more I learned, I got, I stepped my game up. I created this setup that I'm about to show you. So yeah, jig rod basics 101. Gotta have bare minimum a medium heavy rod, but I have a setup where I have a heavy power rod that's it's not super fast action. I mean, I guess moderately fast action rod, and because I don't like those extremely fast action rods as much, because it's like fighting fish with a broomstick or something, it's a little bit more work on me, and I'm not a fan of that. So with this setup, I really manhandle most fish. So once again, it's not just the rod power. We're going to go to actually the reel and line. I feel like going to line first. This is the second thing that is of dire importance. You want to have some good line, fluorocarbon or braid. I fish fluorocarbon unless the situation calls for braid. Um, right now, I think this is like 12-pound test fluorocarbon that I have. Fluorocarbon is virtually or somewhat invisible in water. It just, you can see it for yourself. That's one plus of it, but the main plus of it, it doesn't stretch like monofilament. It doesn't stretch, so you are able to really pack a wallop and pack a punch on any bass or whatever that, or any fish whenever you set the hook. So and you have to be careful with fluorocarbon. If you haven't fished with it before, you need to watch some videos on how to put it on your spool, because if you don't, you're going to have trouble with it over time. Put monofilament or something else on first, then attach the fluorocarbon to the monofilament. Don't use it as like just straight the spool. But anyway, need to have some good line, preferably fluorocarbon. Okay, so on this setup, I have a Fluger Patriot XT reel. This is probably my favorite bass fishing reel. This is my first expensive fishing reel. I don't think they even make this one anymore. Pretty sure they don't. You probably can find one. But this reel, I'm telling you, I have manhandled multiple 5-pound bass with this rod and reel setup. I have manhandled multiple 5-pound bass with this rod and reel setup. And it's nice when you're in control to see a 5-pound bass just skating on top of the water like a daggone, like a wet rag. He's just coming in with his mouth open, giving up. I've done that multiple times, man. I caught the same fish 2 days in a row with the lure setup, with this setup or whatever. But as you can see, man, this is a real nice rod and reel setup. But I'm just more so talking about the I guess the overall mechanics and the foundation of a good, kind of what you want in a jig rod. I'm going to do another video shortly on a good jig setup, like a good type of jig to fish with. Good, I guess football jig compared to other kinds and whatnot. But yeah, thank you for watching. Yep.